Get started, and we have a full house. This is so great to see everyone here. I'm so glad you're here for our session, More Than a Transaction, University Presses and Libraries in Conversation. I'm going to do a quick round of introductions because we want to leave as much time as we can for the meat of the session. I'm Jess Thompson at Harvard Education Press, Allison Levy at Brown University Digital Publications, Charlotte Mason at Edinburgh University Press, and Steve Smith hanging out with me in the Boston area, UMass Boston Healy Library. And that's us, but we really want this to be a conversation with you all. So we're hoping, we actually would love it if we don't have to say anything at all and just can allow you to have this conversation amongst ourselves. This session is organized by the Association of University Presses Library Relations Committee, which Allison and I both serve on. It's our mission to expand communications between university presses and libraries and promote collaboration and communication and mutual understanding and problem solving, because there are so many things we can do better together. We're looking forward to a good conversation here. And if you want to continue the conversation after the session is over or be involved in a continued dialogue, scan this QR code and sign up to join us, and we'll make sure that we're disseminating information and that you have an opportunity to weigh in. I'll show this again at the end of the session if you're interested, and there's also a placard in the back of the room so you can scan on your way out. I think you all have seen these next two slides at other sessions that you've been in. So code of context, all participants are expected to treat others with respect and consideration. I think in the spirit of our open dialogue, this is a really important message to keep in mind. And we want to make sure that this session is accessible. It's being recorded. I need to talk more directly into the mic, I guess. Again, we're going to encourage your participation. So there is a mic that will be circulated. So just make sure if you're speaking that you hang in there and get the mic so that people who watch this in the virtual sessions can hear everything that we talk about. So the goals of this session are to really surface common understandings between university presses, between library collections managers and acquisitions teams, and to talk about the challenges that we're all facing in making purchasing decisions, but also in making decisions about what the kinds of titles that we're signing and how we're bringing them to market and making sure that we're reaching the reader and serving our authors collectively as best we can. So another goal of this session is to facilitate this conversation. And that is really, I think what we want to do is leave this session with a little bit more of an understanding about the positions on both sides, libraries and university presses, and then to sort of create a forum where we can continue that conversation moving forward. So this is just especially important in this moment in time, I think, while there are so many fiscal constraints on all of us. There are opportunities for us to work together and to collaborate, and it's more important than ever. So this is how the session's going to work. This is how we're going to involve everybody in the conversation. So we will focus on 3 key discussion points. I think these were in the program description, but we're going to focus on understanding the perspectives and needs of presses and libraries. We'll talk about evaluating the effectiveness and impact of different stakeholders on the acquisitions teams. And we're going to talk about discoverability and how to improve discoverability and sustainability. We're going to spend about 15 minutes on each topic. Julia is going to be our timekeeper and enforce us. We're going to use some technology to facilitate and get the conversations rolling. And I'll move into the next slide in 2 seconds so we can experiment with the technology and you can see how it's going to work. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes once each question is delivered to enter answers, and then we'll have a conversation from there. Oh, didn't clear. Okay, so you can either do this with your telephone or your laptop. There's a URL up at the top left, and there's a QR code at the top right. If you scan the QR code, you should come right to this question, and this is just a basic get to know each other kind of question. We want to know how many people in the audience work for a library and how many work at a university press, and then how many work in other fields. And we should see these. Look at this. It's actually working. Come on up and take a picture if you want. Oh, you did? How close do you have to be to get it to work? Closer than that? Yeah, this is good. It's good to get up on our feet and move around. And so how we have, oh, it's interesting. I can't see the results on my screen.
Oh, it's moving. Oh.
Are we good? Have most people put in their answers? So we have about half of people so far work for a library. I can't read that percentage, my old eyes. 32%, is that what it says?
33.
33
Yep.
for a university press, and then 16% for aggregators, distributors. Okay, so it's an interesting balance. I actually expected this to be more of a 50-50 university presses and libraries, so that's really interesting, although it makes sense that it would be heavier skewed to libraries. So that helps inform you about what who your neighbor might be. And then this question, where does the university report at your institution? So again, just scan. I don't know if you have to scan it again, or does it automatically advance you to the next question? Good. I think these results, or where presses report, has been changing a lot in the last several years. So I'm really curious to see what the response rate is here. What is that, 40-something% not applicable?
We don't have a press, so it doesn't refer to anything.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have an answer to that one that's not that you don't have a press? Or
it's a library that has a publishing outlet, but it's not a university press.
Got it.
ISU has a digital press that's run by the library.
Uh-huh.
It's not a university press.
Got it. Any other unique situations like that? Or maybe not so unique? Right? Right. Okay. Interesting. So we'll move into our first discussion question, and I think 12 minutes will be about right for this. So we're going to talk here about understanding the perspectives and needs of university presses and library acquisitions teams. And the goal is really to come to some understanding and prove of where each of us stands and sits and what we're facing, and then work on improved communication and collaboration from there. So moving on to this question. These are big questions. Like, you could write a whole thesis on any of these questions. But please sort of be concise and jot down what immediately comes to mind to you. And you'll be able to see people's responses as they come in, and we're going to use that as the foundation of the conversation. And you're anonymous, so nobody will know. Yeah?
Can you hit clear, because these are the ones from our test. Down at the bottom it says clear responses.
Oh, I don't have that button on mine.
Oh, never mind.
Okay. That's really weird. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to add some thoughts. Has anybody answered anything? Oh, there we go. So press is within the library and so works across. Not applicable, we don't have a press. Advisory board. With outside publisher. Library Relations Board. Mostly about budget issues. These are great responses. Collaborate on things like IT and printing services. These are great answers, and I think we'll move into discussion from here. I think that the idea of advisory boards, how many people, show of hands, how many people have an advisory board or meet regularly, university presses and libraries? So 3 people. Did I miss anyone? I think that was about right. So would anybody be willing to say a little bit about what that looks like at your institution? Sure. Yeah. Oh, wait, Mike. Mike coming your way.
Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, Lord. Jenny Collinson, Liverpool University Press. This working?
Yep.
Hi. So yeah, we have a library relations board was established about 5 years ago, and the idea behind it was to kind of the basis for this session, kind of identify common goals, opportunities for collaboration, understand both perspectives kind of the same issues. And one of the really kind of the great things that's come out of it is a shared open access initiative for early career researchers. It's great for the press in that we're kind of increasing the output of open access research, which is core to our mission as a university press. And then equally, it's the institution, and in fact, we partner with other libraries at other institutions, kind of in the similar region within the UK, and it's great for them because they are uplifting the work of their own early career researchers. They can demonstrate to the institution the value of that work and of that allocation of resources. And it's a scalable project, and we hope to add more libraries and more early career researchers, and that's a great way for us to collaborate.
Nice. Anybody else have examples of what an advisory board is doing? Or what a role of an advisory board, if you were to have an advisory board that collaborated a university press and the library, what would you want them to talk about? Jenny says they talk about open access initiatives and early career scholars. What are the kinds of things that you think would be valuable to take up in such a situation?
I'm Eileen Joy, and I direct Punctum Books, which is an open access press that's affiliated with UC Santa Barbara Library, so it's a little unusual. But we have a library advisory board for strategic planning. Does that make sense? In other words, we meet with our librarians to talk to them about our strategic planning and to get their input on that, because they fund the press. And it's something that I assume most university presses doing open access books programs right now, I'm assuming do the same thing.
Anybody respond to that? Anybody on our panel?
I can talk for Edinburgh University Press. I think in terms of funding open access, we participate in lots of different models for open access. We work with our. We don't have a library advisory board, but we're thinking of setting one up. So I think it's trying to kind of have as many conversations as possible with different libraries and working out models that kind of work for us. So I can't really talk for the library advisory board as far as that's concerned.
So I think there's like financial planning and financial advising and strategy setting, and then there's also content advising and delivery method, open access or ebook or whatever the different forms of delivery are. Are you all seeing, is that something that would be which part of that would be most useful to both sides here, libraries and university presses? Is it valuable to have that strategy conversation about content? What about budget? What are people's thoughts?
I just is talk about the situation at University of Massachusetts. We're probably not too different than a lot of libraries, university systems, where we have a press that's primarily at the flagship campus, UMass Amherst. But on the Boston campus, we do have a full-time staff member from the press on campus. But one of the things that's maybe a little bit different is that person, he's more, his position's more of an editorial role, and so he does do presentations to our faculty about scholarly publishing, and particularly around how, steps to getting a monograph published. So when we in the library talk with him, it's more around kind of the content editorial side of things, and not really on the business models or the sustainability part, which is it's I guess one of the things thinking about how, as someone in the library trying to work with university presses, some of the struggle is trying to talk more about the business side of things without talking to a sales rep necessarily, less about what my library is buying in particular, but kind of how can what's the best thing we can do to support a press while meeting our own needs as well. And it is interesting. We don't really, for whatever reasons, we don't really have those conversations with the university press at our university.
So is that direct conversation a desirable outcome or potential outcome for improving relations?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we have the director of the library on our board, our executive board, and we have organised kind of staff swaps. So we get the library to come and visit the press, we get the press to go visit the library. So all different departments that might not necessarily have a kind of direct link are getting more involved. Conversations are happening about early career researchers, having about kind of editorial conversations, business strategy. So our library is very much involved in our whole strategic plan, and that feedback is crucial. And then not to mention just the publishing side of things. So we've got the academic committees and the press committees and other. So we work very closely with our library, and we report into separate entities within the university. So we're at Edinburgh, a wholly owned subsidiary, so we fund ourselves effectively, and we're effectively two different charities. So we treat each other kind of, I suppose, separately, but benefit from the expertise, but rely heavily on that relationship. Also from a data perspective as well, so looking at metadata and discovery and all of those kind of conversations, so important for us.
Let's take a question right there, and then Allison had a comment as well.
Hi, I'm Marcy Cohen, formerly of Boston University. Steve, when you were describing that you've got the person on campus who's talking to faculty about the whole publishing process, last year at BU, we had an initiative with our liaisons that we did a series of workshops, particularly aimed at graduate students about all sorts of aspects of research, including we had one presenter talking about how to publish a book. And I feel like, oh my goodness, if we had somebody like that on campus, that would have been better than any of our liaison librarians could have done to not just promote, hey, we've got our own publishing arm, but to talk about what that process is. And that might be an area for collaboration to work with the library outreach people.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'd just say absolutely, because that's kind of, we hadn't been working with him much before, and we for whatever reason, because we're a largest university and communication's always difficult, we weren't getting the emails he was sending out about these workshops he was doing for, particularly aimed at both graduate students and early career faculty. And it really ties in with what we're doing around trying to, libraries taking on a broader role in supporting scholarly publishing. And so they're definitely, y'all have this wealth of knowledge about how to publish, how to do that work. And with us starting to more and more step into that, there is a real chance for us to work together, especially when we have the people on campus that, faculty, graduate students, when they see something from someone at the university press doing, that's going to try to help them, help them publish basically, they're probably going to pay more attention to that than if it's coming from the library. And so I think there are some real points where we can sort of leverage each other's expertise and really benefit each other. For those of us with the presses on campus, it would be interesting if there was a role for, if somehow for those institutions that don't have a university press, can they work with area presses or other presses to kind of get that to happen? I know that people generally are willing to come visit our campuses and talk to us and our faculty.
We have like 1 more minute, and Allison, did you want to add?
Yeah, thanks, Steve, because I was going to suggest that. So I am sort of the voice of the in-between space. Brown University Digital Publications is not a university press. We are based in the library. We focus on digital content development, but we partner with university presses to publish the work. So thinking about those in the audience, for your institutions do not have a university press, I was just wondering what kind of communication, what kind of collaboration might you have already? And also, if that isn't happening yet, what could help to make that happen? What's your ideal kind of collaboration? Something to think about.
Yeah. I think we'll move on to the next question, and we can continue conversation about any of these points through an online dialogue after the meeting. If you scan that QR code, we can respond. But moving on to our discussion point number 2, which is about evaluating the effectiveness and impact of different relationships and channels on acquisitions, choices, and discoverability of university press content. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to respond to this question. How do you keep current on university press content if you're at a library? And if you're at a university press, how do you make libraries aware of your content? And as you answer, if you're a university press, just put UP before your answer. And if you're a library, could you just put an L before your answer so we can sort of get a sense of the different perspectives?
While we're waiting for answers to roll in, I do one thing about this from a librarian perspective is, we don't, in terms of acquiring university press content, this is something we've been doing for a long time. And so there's an element of this that we have kind of a long-standing knowledge, especially of the more, maybe with some of the smaller presses, what their areas of expertise or areas of concentration are. And we also can look at our usage data and see if that's, whether we're making more usage-based decisions or subject-based decisions about collection building. There is an element to this that presses tend not to change their publishing portfolio on a dime, so there's a long-standing history of just the business we've been doing over the years.
Yeah. There's some interesting comments coming in webinars. A lot of newsletters came up at the beginning. Social media. Libraries helping universities market titles and authors when possible. We've been really lucky to have that experience at Harvard. Outreach via email newsletters. Award winners, new publication initiative announcements. So a general question, as I'm seeing these responses come in, do you feel like these methods are as effective as you want them to be, or do you feel like there might be ways to improve the way that university presses make libraries aware? Yes, back in the back of the room.
Many of us in the library world subscribe to either Project Muse or to JSTOR or other packages that contain a lot of university press content. but it's confusing to see how much of it or what the percentage of the list is, or whether it's a certain discipline or it's only older works, et cetera. So those contracts are difficult, and you sometimes then find yourselves buying multiple copies of the same work from different sources because you didn't know it's going to come out. So we really need to have it coordinated with those for those libraries that still maintain approval plans, or dissemination. Is it going to be evidence-based and built into this program or a DDA program or whatever it is? There's so much overlap that I feel it's an invitation to make even more mistakes, and those are costly. And we're trying to choose the best alternative for our users and to get the quickest access to that newly released content. So I think there needs to be a lot of attention placed in when you decide to offer your works that way.
Yeah, this is something, we consider ourselves a microcosm of like this bigger, broader communication because we as a group have shared so much information and common challenges and opportunities together. And that's one that has come up a lot, right? That discoverability and sources, there's just so much out there. It's how do you sift through all that information? Is that it sounds like that's probably a common experience for everyone.
And just one thing we've discussed when we're putting this together is, and this is definitely my, something I don't think I've realized until starting to have these conversations directly with folks from the university presses, is we get so, it's starting to change, but we do get a lot of, most of us tend to rely on the aggregators to provide us with the university press content. And my probably simple-minded perspective, I just assumed that what I was telling an aggregator was that information was being carried through to the university press themselves. In some ways, it allowed us, that was kind of a pathway instead of having to reach out to 57 different university presses that we want content from. The aggregator was serving as that information kind of pathway, and it became clear once talking directly with university presses that that's not really the case. And there were some basic things like not even getting good usage data or any usage data from an aggregator. And let me just say, I'm not picking on anybody, and every aggregator is different, I know that, so these are going to be overgeneralized comments. But it made it clear to me that it's really important for us as librarians to start having these conversations, telling university presses that there is an issue for us to be able to get the complete front list instead of partial, or knowing how those decisions about how you make, those decisions you make about whether to include content with aggregator X or on platform Y, or things you're only going to keep as print or sell through EBSCO as a one-user lockdown version or something. So we can't get that information generally from the aggregators. It is working directly with the presses. I do want to mention Steve Fallon at De Gruyter, now Paradigm, just because a lot of these issues were raised by work he's done to try to bring the university presses and librarians in direct communication. And it really is important because we do rely on the aggregators so much, and they do play an important role in this. But in terms of information exchange, we need to be talking directly raising these issues about partial content or whatever directly with the university.